Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, who in this world ignorantly calls God, in the name of Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Okay, Yahweh Shai means he saves, he delivers. Alright, I want to give double honors to the elders, apostles of Great Millstone. Those are the men that I learned from. This 100% truth, okay? They be on the highways and hedges week in and week out and putting up videos, bringing out this truth and sincerity, and they risk their life and freedom to do so. Shalom to you, brothers. And shalom to the 1/3 part of Israel, scattered to the four winds of the earth. That would be you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and those Israelites who go back to the 12 tribes of Israel, but you look like the other nations. You are known in the Bible as the speckled bird Israelites. Shalom to you and the few sisters that's listening and learning in silence as prescribed in the scriptures. Alright, so with that being said, I'm your brother and humble servant to Saban Yahweh, back with another lesson in the spirit and power of the Almighty Yahweh, Bahasham, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Let's get into it. Again, fair use. Now, I'm just going to touch on a couple of points based on the State of the Union address. The Lord's willingness is edifying. Let's get into it.
American oil production is up by more than 600,000 barrels a day, and we just received from our new friend and partner, Venezuela, more than 80 million barrels of oil.
Did this man just say partnership? Well, according to the news and what we all saw on January 3rd, 2026, the U.S. launched Operation Absolute Resolve, a military operation that resulted in the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. The operation involved extensive airstrikes and ground forces aimed at addressing allegations of drug trafficking and narco-terrorism, and has led to significant international debate regarding its legality and implications for Venezuela's future. Now, he just mentioned partnership in the procurement of so many billion gallons of oil. Now, does that sound like a partnership that was legitimate and legal? Of course not. But what it is theft. Now, this operation was done under the cover of darkness. It's the book of Job, chapter 24, and verse 14. The murderer, rising with the light, killeth the poor and needy, and in the night is as a thief. Okay? Verse 16, in the dark they dig through houses which they had marked for themselves in the daytime. They know not the light. All right?
Days of President Trump's second term, the U.S. launched large-scale military strikes inside of Venezuela Saturday, with U.S. forces capturing President Nicolas Maduro in just hours. Here's how it unfolded. Reports of loud explosions and low-flying aircraft in the Venezuelan capital of Caracas began around 2 a.m., with video showing multiple blasts and fires. Strikes happened in at least 7 key infrastructure sites, including a port and an airport in a coastal city east of the capital. The president said the U.S. military helicopters touched down at 2:01 local time as Maduro attempted to enter a steel shelter in his fortified residence. Trump announced the operation at 4:21 a.m. in a post on Truth Social, saying Maduro had been captured along with his wife, Celia Flores. They were dragged from their home by elite U.S. forces during the raid, according to CNN sources. U.S. forces were out of the water and out of Venezuela by 4:29 local time.
So again, there was no partnership. Theft of persons for the theft of natural resources. In this case, minerals, precious metals, and oil.
Everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New Scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly use the word affordability, a word they just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem.
So he began to berate the Democrats, all right, who pretty much stood in silence inside the chamber, okay, for the most part, and then some heckling began. But really, you see, you see a house divided against itself. All right, so there's no bipartisan spirit amongst these people. Okay, you just see a house divided, and this is how you know that this nation is headed to nothing, man, really fast. This is the book of Luke, chapter 11, verse 17. But he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is the point. This is the point. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. All right. And a house divided against a house falleth. All right. Again, Mark 3, verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Verse 25, and if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. All right. Now, 26, it says, and if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. So this is essentially what we're looking at. The end of their kingdom, the end of their rulership. All right. So it's, birth pangs, okay, as it were, okay, before the deliverance. All right. This is the stage where it's uncomfortable, but it's a necessary thing. All right. For the true, the chosen, all right, the hopeful elect, 1/3 part of Israel to receive a kingdom. Okay. This kingdom that's present and is temporal and very carnal based and demonic based, it must go.
But they never could. They tried. Most didn't try, actually. But they tried. They said they tried. They couldn't do it. They didn't even come close. They were all talk and no action. But I got it done. Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs. Anywhere. The lowest price.
So there he was addressing the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. He's basically basing it on cost. So his presentation in the State of the Union was basically about driving the cost of everything down, lowering interest rates, lowering grocery prices. He mentioned eggs, and he's talking about soon the price of beef will go down. So these are all selling points, right, to build his case. So let's continue.
They may do it. Codify it anyway. Thank you. Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years.
Meanwhile, bro in the audience sleep. No, but this administration is speaking highly of our artificial intelligence, which we know feeds into their technocracy. So they're always going to give you the positive and never the negative points and the implications, what it implies. Okay, that's going to lead to pretty much a digital enslavement of the people. Okay, so that is the underlying issue. All right, plenty sci-fi movies, documentaries, and even independent researchers have uncovered the implications of artificial intelligence, massive rollout, the downfall, and the degrading of ecosystems, natural ecosystems. Right, pretty much contamination of water, the high levels of radiation that does cause real cancer. Uh, the need for 6G, right? The 6G is another microwave expelling element that's going to make it difficult for people. Even they stress that the communities will save money on their electric bills due to the infrastructure of the smart computer setups and whatnot, but they're not telling you the cost because they haven't even had it yet. These people are pretty much doing that big experiment on people as if people are pretty much lab rats. Okay, so this is the thing. These people are speaking great things, but they're not weighing the consequences. Right? It's a false balance because just like with the COVID 19 in the year 2020. They were just pretty much experimenting. They hadn't done any valid testing on those jabs. Okay, and so now here we are in 2026, and throughout the years, the 6 years, people have had complications health wise, even worse. Okay, people are no longer here on walking the earth because of those the testing of what they were doing. And it's just a test. It's just like this thing here. They're pushing something forward and not studying the consequences, okay? And that's problematic. This is beautiful. This is the book of Job, chapter 13, verse 1. That's where I'll begin. Lo, mine eye hath seen all this. Mine ear hath heard and understood it, okay? What ye know, the same do I know also, okay? I am not inferior unto you, right? These people, they hold us in derision. They think just because we are so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that we don't see what's going on, but they have mechanisms in place to keep people like us at bay, like the dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion. When one of the key points in their presentation was talking about, how DJT was talking about we're gonna win big, but people didn't realize that he was talking about Olympic Games. I about fell out of my seat when I heard him say this. I'm like, is this man serious? That's what he's talking about, winning? So this is the level of thinking. These people are really like big children. Okay, verse 3 says, "Surely I would speak to the Almighty, and I desire to reason with power." Okay, but it says, verse 4 is the point. But ye are forgers of lies. Okay. These people are lying. Okay, they don't. They probably have done the research. I mean, they have scientists and they have people who study the side effects of microwaves and things of that nature and the negative effects on the human biology. Okay, but it says, "But ye are forgers of lies. Ye are all physicians of no value." Okay, so they want to push this technocracy. And a big portion of it has to do with the healthcare. Okay, so if you look at the memorandum from the White House, it had 6G is going to be rolled out for purposes of building up and bolstering the economy, and they said implantable devices. All right, and for pretty much speeding up the internet through the fiber optic network. Okay, so it's going to be a medical application to this, and the scriptures tell us that they are physicians of no value, right? Because a physician is supposed to make the body whole. You're supposed to minister to the body, right? This is why they are physicians of no value, because they, in their carnal mind, their carnal thinking, and their pride and arrogance, they're making big mistakes by pushing these things forward, and then they're using the Elamites. They're using India. They had a big deal with India to come over here and build the infrastructure for these supercomputers which would service the AI infrastructure using Elam. So these other heathen nations are still very much involved with the United States oppression of people. Okay, these are all physicians of no value. Okay, verse 5, I love this one. It says, "Oh, that ye would all together hold your peace, and it should be your wisdom." You know, sometimes it's wise, you know, to just not even be quiet, because they really tell on themselves, and these scriptures reveal who they are. All right. So also I want to mention in Job 9 and verse 24, it says that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, he covereth the faces of the judges. Okay, if not, where and who is he? So we know that he is the wicked of the earth, right? The spirit of the anti-Hamashiach, the Antichrist, that is gone out in the earth, who has great wrath and whose time is short. So he's rushing these things through. Okay, because he wants global dominance. This is why the invasions and so on and so forth. Daniel 4 and verse 17 says, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers." Who are the watchers? The chosen, the elect of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. It says, "And the demand by the word of the holy ones." Okay, to the intent. This is the intention, that the living, okay, those who are alive in Hamashiach Yahushai, may know that the Most High, who is Yahweh, ruleth in the kingdom of men. This is how we know that the Heavenly Father is dealing with us, because he is showing these things and revealing who the Edomites really are, the so-called white man in the earth, the wicked, okay, the counterpart of Satan on the earth. It says, "And giveth it to whomsoever he will." Okay, so the kingdom of men, okay, we're really looking at the earth, the rulership that is in the earth presently. Okay, it says, "And the Heavenly Father, he giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men." So the men that you see in rulership right now are the literal basest of men. They are even comparable to children. Okay, let's get back to it. Now, what I'm about to play real quick is dealing directly with Somali, the woman named Omar with the head wrap. You always see her, right? And notice how Trump looks directly at her when he mentions this quote unquote scam or the pillaging of American dollars. Check this out.
I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance.
So you see Omar, she was said and reported to be heckling him, and what she was saying was like, "You're a liar." Right, she called him a murderer even, right? So I got a little article on that real quick. All right, so here got an article right here. This is by The Hill. Let's go to the top real quick. And the article says that the heading is, "Omar heckles Trump during comments about Somali community." Because he said a direct shot at the Somali community, right? Which, of course, pissed him off, right? So, let me see. So there's the numbers that he mentioned. He said when it comes to the corruption that is plundering America, there has been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. All right, so you see that, right? It says $19 billion from the American taxpayer. All right, but let's scroll down a little bit. We'll scroll down, because this is the actual number right here. It say the Somali community has been under scrutiny by the administration, in part due to a massive pandemic era fraud scheme that stole hundreds of millions of federally funded nutrition program, right? But it says as much as 1 billion is reported. It's only 1 billion, not 19 billion, all right? 1 billion reported to have been stolen in separate plots. So I mean, you know, that's what they reported. So I'm pretty sure they're still investigating it and whatnot. But there's a vast difference in the number that DJT was talking about, and then the actual reported number of 1 billion. You see that? 19 billion, 1 billion. There's a big difference. All right. So what is that? Once again, it's a lie. All right. And everybody remember there was a post where Trump shared something from one of his cabinet members. He shared it or whatever, and it had like the Obamas as apes. And then I guess one of the representatives named Al Green, I think he Jake. He held up a sign that said black people aren't apes, and they removed him from the chamber. So that was another little key point. Besides like the utter silence from the Democratic side, you know, that's what was going on.
We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception.
So you hear him, he talking about corruption, he talking about pretty much going after brown people, you know what I'm saying, melanated people. I mean, I know these people, they descend from the Cushites and all that, sons of Ham and all that, but you know, it's just an excuse, another excuse for these devils to go after melanated people. You know, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. It's another excuse. So, you know, don't be deceived, man, by these devils, man. That's why she's shaking her head, because she already know what the play is. You know, these people, they all about they white nationalism, but really they just really tipping the scales, and they really pushing prophecy forward. So, you know, kudos to the administration, man, because, you know, these prophecies, they're gonna happen. You know, it's got to happen this way. All right, so Lord's willing, this is edifying. To the next one. Shalom.